And hello, welcome back to another episode of Zach Talks Hawks. My name is Zach, and here we talk everything Seattle Seahawks football. It looks a little bit different around here. You might have noticed the new logo on the channel, and just trying to spruce things up as my background in real life changes. I kind of wanted to bring some changes to the channel itself, and I'm super excited to talk to you about Seattle's win Week 7 against the Atlanta Falcons. As of this recording, it's Monday night, so still don't know the end results from Monday Night Football. We're going to go over our predictions and things like that in next episode as we preview for the week to come, so stick around for that. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We got a game to be thankful that it exists. Seattle walks into Atlanta and takes care of business against the Atlanta Falcons. Seattle moving to 4-3, snapping a 3-game skid, and the Falcons go down to 4-3 after what was going to seem like either a super competitive game or a game in which the Falcons were going to be ultimately in control. It didn't look anything like that on Sunday. These two teams squared off, and it was a battle of the birds going back and forth, making sure that they were trying to outdo each other. And really, from the beginning, it was Atlanta's mistakes that kept them within grasp of a Seahawk team that just tried to get out of their own way, be disciplined, and be a fundamentally sound football team. And that's really what we saw. Atlanta, on their first drive, had 3 false start penalties at home, which is pretty rare, and it sort of cascaded all throughout the game. Atlanta was sort of just their own worst enemy in this one, and really piled up a bunch of great opportunities for Seattle as the game wore on. Kenneth Walker, on his 24th birthday, had a great game. He had a touchdown rushing and then wound up with a awesome receiving touchdown as well. Just a fingertip grab in the back of the end zone for Kenneth Walker, and that was really, really cool to see. Seattle sort of integrate him more into the offense that way, while also being respectful to Zach Charbonnet and getting him 8 carries on the day as well. Not super productive, but it's a good change of pace in order to see those two backs go back and forth with each other. Let's talk about what led up to this dominating win for Seattle in Atlanta against a team they had to beat in order to not just maintain a division tie, but now with the 49ers losing to the Chiefs, Seattle right back in front of the NFC West, leading that train, chugging down the tracks early in this season. Geno Smith is the man that I want to talk to you all about here today. We talked about him on a live stream show that I do over at Joe Stevens' Seahawk Talk channel. If you don't know what that is, go find him. He does really good live stream content over there. But we talked about last week on the show about how I personally am tired of hearing the anti-Geno people out there on the interwebs, and they simply exist because they have not watched Seattle Seahawks games. When Seattle gets a decent offensive line, Geno Smith is the quarterback for this team. He goes through his progressions well. He doesn't rush things. He doesn't hurry up plays. He doesn't force the ball, and he's opportunistic when there's one-on-one opportunities. Geno Smith is a solid top 10, top 12 quarterback in the NFL. And I will die on the hill that says his ceiling is probably win a playoff game, maybe 2 if things go right. He's not going to be a quarterback that's going to lead this team to the Super Bowl. But he's also not a dumpster fire, which a lot of these fans are clamoring for in terms of, we want him out so we can get Sam Howell in. And let me tell you, there was one point in this game where Geno, I don't know if he had a contact out or what, but he had to step away for one play, and Howell got in there, and I was afraid for my life, because the plan with the Seahawks situation is that we're going to let Howell sit for hopefully a few years, and in a few years he might become the next Geno Smith. That would be a good story for him. Although Geno Smith wasn't the only one to complete a pass on Sunday, Jackson Smith-Njigba completed his first pass of his NFL career. A wobbler, a duck to DK Metcalf, 35 yards down the field. DK springs up and is able to sort of jump 5 yards backwards in order to catch this ball. Really bailed out JSN on a double pass, and that was an interesting play. But Geno, the actual thrower of the ball, completes 18 of his passes, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He had 28 attempts on the day. So Geno, steady as she goes. This is the kind of day we want out of this quarterback. He's not forcing the situation, and when the game can be sealed, he will go and seal it. And that is exactly what this team needs to keep on doing in order to have prolonged success throughout the year. Play sound defense and then rely on Geno not throwing away the game. An interesting takeaway, and I don't know if we're going to be able to see offensive lineman stats here for what I have up, but I'm not seeing it. Seattle started a rookie this week at right tackle, and he was able to come on in and try for a injured Stone Forsythe. And let me tell you right away, I have seen enough to know that Stone Forsythe should not be back on the field for this offensive line. The kid held his own. He did okay. He did well enough, and the more he's going to jive with this group, the more time he's going to have with this group, the better the offensive line is going to be moving forward. I am of the mind where Abraham Lucas doesn't come back, doesn't play football again. I just haven't seen enough out of him. The coaches are being super secretive about his injury and his progress and everything that's going on. And it's just a weird situation for Abraham Lucas. And until I see more, I'm just going to assume that he has played his last down in the NFL. And that might be a wild take, but personally, every time I see him back on the field or attempting anything, I, as a fan, am worried for his safety. It's one of those deals where some players just get the bad injury break, and you should cut your losses and understand that, hey, we gave you a draft pick, we saw high potential, and things just haven't worked out. It's not the first time Seattle's been through this in their history, but definitely at a point of significance on their offensive line. The rookie did very well. I think his name is Gerald. Excuse me if I'm getting that wrong, but pretty sure that it starts with a G. He's out there somewhere. Don't have him right here, right now in front of me to take a look, but he played pretty well. And this offensive line did a good enough job to let Geno do his job throughout the day. And I was very happy to see what was going on with the offensive line. Let's flip the script and talk about defense, because this was so refreshing. Seattle was able to rattle the cage of Kirk Cousins. Now, I said in my preview video, in order for them to win this game, they got to get him off early and make sure that he was off of his game very early on and get to him. Now, they didn't quite do that. They went into halftime with the lead of 17-7, but starting the second half, those big-time plays were made from this defensive unit. We saw Kobe Bryant filling in as a safety, able to get an interception. We saw Julian Love was able to get out there and get an interception. Taking a look at the sack numbers for this game, Leonard Williams gets a sack. Boye Mafe gets a sack. Draymond Jones gets a sack. You were able to see guys that we haven't seen for a while, like Byron Murphy, able to come back into the lineup and sort of start gelling with the defensive line. The addition of Roy Robertson Harris from Jacksonville in that trade this past week. He got off a plane from London, flew all the way to Seattle, figured he was going to Jacksonville, but here he gets traded. And they're able to sort of jive together. I'm liking what I'm seeing out of this defensive unit, especially up front, the more and more they get healthy. Unfortunately, Uchenna Nwosu is sort of starting to look like a pipe dream at this point. He's injured all the time. It's not looking like we're going to get much of any production out of him at all this season, and it just sounds like, again, another sort of Abraham Lucas deal, although Uchenna Nwosu is a much higher talent than Abraham Lucas. Some guys are just injured all too often, and you cannot afford to give them a roster spot when the NFL is this competitive. Seattle got a few pieces back on the defensive front, and I think that made all the difference for them in this game. Not saying they were perfect. Bijan Robinson, of course, got 103 yards in this game, had a touchdown, looked very dominant, had 21 carries. Atlanta knew if they were going to get back into this game, they were going to try to do everything they possibly could so that they could weasel their way back into the conversation. And there was a huge strip sack fumble that involved I believe Boye Mafe going all the way back for a touchdown. This team really in on what is going on when it comes to getting pressure on the quarterback. We talked about it. The first 3 weeks of the season, Seattle by far and away number one in quarterback pressures, and the hens came to roost, so to speak, when it came to this game. Seattle was in the face of Kirk Cousins, and when you get in his face, he's not very mobile. He can't really run away, and it led to some deflections, a fumble that eventually turned into a touchdown, some bad throws that led to interceptions. This team knew the game plan, and they executed perfectly, and I love the fact that this defense finally woke up. They were able to pitch 2 quarters worth of shutout football, one in the first quarter and one in the fourth quarter. Of course, that's you as a fan, you're greedy, you want more than that. But I really liked what I saw out of this defense. It's a quality opponent. Now, they're not a San Francisco, Detroit kind of opponent. I think they're sort of on the same tier that we are. And it shows that Seattle, when prompted, is able to bounce back in a big way. I was also looking at Coach McDonald when it came to this football game. How would he respond? This was if anybody was going to put it on paper, a must-need win for the Seattle Seahawks. 3-game skid. San Francisco's now tied you. Technically, right now, they have the tiebreaker. What are you going to do on the road in an environment against a team that is familiar with you? Not necessarily a head coach, right? Because they're both rookie head coaches going at each other. But some of those players have frequently played against the Seattle Seahawks. What are you going to do to get them off their groove? I think Seattle did a really, really good job at maintaining, an identity on offense, which is rare to say from this team. They were very opportunistic in the passing game, and they were very disciplined in their running game. And then defensively, they're all about quarterback pressures. That's it. They don't defend the run very well. They're not super great on the outside, especially with the different defensive injuries they have. But they are really, really good at getting at the quarterback. So if they hone in on that and make that who they are, Seattle's going to look pretty competent on defense this year. And I've really enjoyed sort of the good games Seattle has been able to put together. This is another one. And it just looks like whenever this defense gets their stuff figured out, Seattle is going to be okay. They have played, arguably, 4 pretty good defensive football games. They have won all of them. And they have played, arguably, 3 atrocious defensive games. They have lost all of them. This team is not built to be specifically in shootouts with folks every single week. Not with this offensive line, not with this offensive line unit that's trying to gel and get healthy and work together. Bring in a rookie to see how it works. Jason Peters is waiting on the wings, trying to figure out if He, at the age of 41, is going to come in and play right tackle. This offensive line doesn't have time to experiment. This team has to understand who they are. They are an opportunistic football team that is able to, at times, put together really cohesive offensive drives based solely in the run game that then flare out into the passing game. And then at defense, the only thing you're good at is pressuring the quarterback, so you better hope you get home. You can win a good amount of football games by playing that way. Are you a deep playoff team? Absolutely not. Are you a Super Bowl team? No way. But you're a fun football team. It is a fun football team to watch. And if you were a fan of the Seattle Seahawks on Sunday, you had a lot of fun watching this. Grubb's offense sort of came to life. You were able to see how complex it was at times with different motions. I mean, the JSN pass, that was pretty cool to see. And then defensively, you were able to take a look at different, especially defensive lineman personnel, watch how they swap in and out of the game based on what scenario they're in. McDonald is really, really good at playing the people on the team rather than the scheme on the team and putting those folks in the best position possible to succeed. And it worked against Atlanta. Time will tell to know if Seattle will string this together and take a look further on down the line. Brace yourself. They're going across country again to play the Buffalo Bills. Oh, man, what a brutal, absolutely. Or no, it is at home. So the Bills are going to Seattle, excuse me. Still, it's a brutal matchup. But more on that on our next show. I cannot wait to talk to you more about Seahawk football. Next time we get together, we're going to go over our predictions, how well we did last week, make some predictions for the week to come, and preview the Bills coming into town playing the Seattle Seahawks. Can't wait to talk to you again real soon. And in the meantime, I'm Zach, and keep talking Hawks. See ya.